Slendy, Ego, Slendy, hey, hit it out the park. Hit it with a strike. From the national anthem to the bottom of the night. I'm in Slendy, Ego, Slendy, Ego, Slendy, Ego, Slendy, hey, you already know what's up. What's that? Another home run. But you know the job ain't done till we hold that trophy up. Hey.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 472 of the Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden with you here. It is September 19th, 2023, and the San Diego Padres continue to have a lot of problems in the organization, a lot of problems in the front office with the guy that's running the entire thing, him not cooperating well with the guy that's leading things in the dugout during games. Dennis Lin, Ken Rosenthal, they wrote a piece in The Athletic in 2021 talking about the problems with the San Diego Padres, and part of that was AJ Preller. And 2 years later, the same two people write another piece that says a lot of the same stuff, maybe just a different cast of characters, but the same stuff about one guy who is still here, continues to be here, and that is AJ Preller. So a lot to talk about. I'm going to go through this piece, some of the main takeaways that I had in this piece. If you want to join the show, you can click that link that's pinned up at the top of the chat as always. If you want to make sure I get to your comment or your question, you can use that super chat button there. It supports the channel, and it makes it very easy for me to see your comment, your question. Just a reminder before I get going here, you can use my code TalkingFriars, $20 off your SeatGeek order. And check out BreakingT.com. Click the link in the description for some great San Diego sports swag. Padres, Aztecs, Wave, and Foco as well. Click the link in the description. You can do that there for some great Padres bobbleheads, some collectibles, bracelets as well. And then, obviously, I'll tell you more about Gaglione Bros and Underdog Fantasy here in a little bit. But yeah, this came out this morning, and I was doing a show for anyone that was live last night. Watching live last night, they know that I was up at midnight doing a show talking about Padres and the Colorado Rockies and hitting on the Padres maybe planning to curb spending and Manny expecting to have surgery soon. Why has he not had surgery yet? But that feels like such old news. Like, no one's talking about that today. What people are talking about is obviously this article that came out from Dennis and from Ken. And here's the title. And right when you read the title, well, actually, first off, when I was on The Athletic and I saw this, you see that, okay, the Athletic had their editing team or whatever make a Padres edit picture. And usually that doesn't happen unless it's like a big, breakdown story like this, right? And so I saw, okay, Manny's on there, Preller's on there, and Bob Melvin is on there. And it's like, okay, here we go. Deep piece. You see Ken Rosenthal and Dennis Lin write it, and it's titled "The Padres' Disastrous Season Reveals Shaky Foundation and Institutional Failure." And I'm like, okay, well, buckle on up. Wow, settle in. This one's going to be a long one, isn't it? And yes, it was a long one. It was, I think, almost 90 paragraphs long. So yeah, there was a lot of information here, and I'm not going to read through the entire article. I'm going to bring up a lot of points that were in the article because I'm talking about, this is the big story about the Padres today, and it's going to remain being the big story because these Padre games don't mean anything. But yeah, I'm going to hit on a bunch, but if you want to read the entire thing, which it's pretty long, you can go to The Athletic and you can read that. The link is also on my social media channels, definitely on Twitter. You can click the link and you can look up Ken Rosenthal or Dennis Lin on social media. They do great work, obviously, with The Athletic, and so you can go look at that article there. But yeah, I mean, it obviously starts out with some background on, the Padres. They're in the most disappointing season in their franchise's history, maybe definitely one of the most disappointing seasons in Major League history, just not the Padres, but just Major League history. The collapse 2 years ago, AJ Preller still there. He is a gifted evaluator, collector of high-end talent, but his default setting is trying to outwork the competition, and it got more into that here in this story. I want to first start off because I have a full page of notes here, and I'm just going to go in the order of my notes. So I want to start off with one player in this article saying that Preller and Melvin's relationship is, quote, unfixable, end quote. One player, and this is just one player, but they think that the relationship between AJ Preller and Bob Melvin is unfixable. Do I think that their relationship is truly like 100% unfixable? I don't, because I still want to give AJ Preller the ability to change. But there was an article that was written in 2021 from Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal that had a lot of negative things about AJ Preller in it and how he operates. And if I was AJ Preller, I would have read that article and been, okay, I need to go talk to a lot of people in this organization, and I need them to truly tell me how they feel about how I run things. How should I improve? How can I improve? I obviously need to get better with my communicating, how I run things. So I'm going to go try to do that. But 2 years later, you read this article and a lot of the same stuff is popping up about the micromanaging, him, there's a lot of people talking about how, oh my gosh, he's the hardest worker in the world. He works so freaking hard. He is obsessed with trying to get better, incrementally better. But there's also the same stuff about him getting in on some things that maybe he should just let the people that he hired do those jobs, like people in, the coaching staff. And we'll get to that because there's stuff about the coaching staff with like AJ Preller insisting on some guys hitting off of the velo machine, throwing 100. Little things like that where some people in the organization don't 100% agree on that. He wants people doing extra work, and some players don't really believe in that because they're like, hey, it's a long season, and us doing that in August and September, I mean, we're gassed. I think that was one of the quotes in this article. So there's a lot there, but specifically with Bob and with AJ, the rift between the two became one of the worst kept secrets in baseball, according to Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal here in this article. So almost everyone knows, like, okay, AJ and Bob, they don't get along. It's not going great. So my question there is like, okay, then how is Bob Melvin going to return in 2024 to be the Padres manager? If it's the worst kept secret in baseball, one of the worst kept secrets in baseball, that there is a major disconnect, there is a rift between the two, why would Bob Melvin want to do this again? It's not like they're going to be a postseason team and it's like, oh, well, we're having success, so I can deal with it for one more year. He's not on the same page with AJ Preller. Clearly, he was so used to having Billy Beane, and this was pointed out in the article, having Billy Beane be at 40,000 feet. But AJ Preller, he's in the dugout, it seems like all the time. He's at 10,000 feet, not 40,000 feet. And Preller brings Bob Melvin in here, and Bob Melvin's probably like, okay, so I'm going to be able to have all of this talent, more financial resources, and I'm going to be able to do my job. I'm going to have my coaches be able to do their jobs. Yeah, we'll have a lot of success here. Because he was probably thinking, yeah, Preller would be dumb to be micromanaging and trying to be so involved with my coaching staff and things that are happening on the field, But no, Preller, he continues to want to be involved in every little thing and micromanaging. And that clearly has rubbed some people the wrong way in this organization. There is no doubt about that. I'm just reading from this article here, and you compare 2021 and 2023, because the 2021 article, there's similar stuff as the 2023 article. And Preller says in 2021 about Jace Tingler, talking about the crucial thing in any organization is to be on the same page, essentially, is what he was saying about Jace Tingler. Now in this article in 2023, you're never going to agree on everything. ... That's healthy. Like, that's a healthy thing to do. He was talking about that to either Dennis Lin or Ken Rosenthal, or to both, whoever he spoke to for this article that came out. So he's just spinning it whatever way is convenient for him. Oh, with Jace Tingler, it's good to be on the same page. Oh, with Bob Melvin, you're not on the same page? Well, no, that's healthy. That's a healthy thing to not be on the same page. Like, which one is it? Right? Which one is it? And it feels like there's obviously it's not it feels like there obviously is a disconnect between the two. And if you're Bob Melvin and this isn't working out, why would you want to be the manager under AJ Preller for the 2024 season? To deal with AJ again in 2024? Maybe he's going to do it because he just wants to finish out the contract. He doesn't want to let the players in that clubhouse down because he was under contract and he doesn't want to see that as him quitting on those players. But he's not going to be managing in 2024 because he loves AJ Preller, right? Don't see that happening. And it feels like there was the stuff about Bruce Bochy, right? Like Bruce Bochy, there's no way that Bruce Bochy would, allow AJ Preller to do some of the stuff that AJ Preller is allowed to do. There's no way he'd take this Padres job. That was after the Padres let go, I believe, of Jace Tingler. And maybe there was some of that Bochy talk. Maybe Bob Melvin should have took that clue and be like, well, there's probably some red flags here. Or maybe he understood the red flags. He understood what he was going to have to deal with AJ. And he just took it because this is going to be his best shot to win the World Series, he thought, because of the talent on this team. And things obviously haven't worked out this year. Now, they got to the NLCS last year, but they went on a run. They didn't have as good of a team, I don't think, like talent-wise, at least superstar-wise, right? They didn't have Xander Bogaerts, didn't have Fernando Tatis Jr., didn't have Hader and Soto for the entire year, Manny was out a little bit, right? Manny was out a little bit this year as well, but you get my point. He probably thought, okay, we're only going to keep building from here. But they have taken a huge, not just a huge step back, but multiple big steps back this season. So I wonder if Bo Mel would stay. But why would Bob Melvin stay? Would it be because he's like, well, the 1-inning record, that's not going to happen again. The extra inning record, right? The 1-run games, the extra inning records, those aren't going to happen again. There's no way that all of these superstar players are going to perform like this again next year. So I am just going to stay for one more year, play out this contract, deal with AJ for 2024, and hope that the talent can get the Padres into the postseason and we can go win the World Series because there's a lot of talent still going to be on this team. But he could also look at it as, well, Blake Snell's not going to be here probably. Josh Hader's probably not going to be here. Juan Soto might be traded. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could happen. I'm going to have to deal with AJ Preller again in 2024. We thought that this year was our best chance. We're going to have a better chance of winning in 2024 without Blake Snell, without Josh Hader, maybe without Waka, maybe without Lugo. Who knows what happens there? We're going to have a better shot. I mean, this was supposed to be that year. So I don't know. I think Bob would want to stay because he believes in the talent, the superstars in that clubhouse, and he doesn't want to give up on the players, and he wants to go through this contract. But he has had to probably deal with a lot this season, obviously. And just even last year, obviously had to deal with a lot. And it was mentioned, I think, in this article, like if Bob Melvin can't, be the guy to take this team to the promised land, then who is going to be that guy? The next guy that comes in, let's say Bob Melvin parts ways or AJ decides to relieve Bob Melvin of his duties and he gets to hire another manager, right? Let's say that happens. The next guy that comes in is going to be compared with Bob Melvin. And that next guy, there's no way, in my opinion, that next guy is going to be as good of a manager as Bob Melvin. Bob, as I've already said, Bob Melvin, I've said this in the past, he already has the respect of all of the superstars in that clubhouse. You don't hear anyone saying anything negative about Bob Melvin. They have the respect of him. You see players saying anonymous quotes to the media, to Dennis Lynn and stuff, and Ken Rosenthal about AJ Preller and how he kind of lacks like a feel of the players in that clubhouse and lacks a feel of the coaching staff and the coaching staff feeling like, oh, AJ nitpicks everything. and just doesn't let us do our job. Like that's kind of the sense I got reading this article here. You know, you have people complaining about AJ. You don't have people complaining about Bob Melvin. That's like some Padres fans that are just looking for someone to be the scapegoat, the manager, and they still believe in AJ Preller here. And I don't want to, again, I don't want this to be like AJ Preller's an idiot. He's not. He's smart. We know that. He works his butt off. He's obsessed. That's part of the reason why I loved him last year with, all the stories and bringing in Juan Soto, not being afraid to make that move, falling asleep on his couch at like 2 in the morning or whatever it was, talking to a scout on the night before the trade deadline, the morning, I guess, of the trade deadline, like works his butt off. I love that. I'd rather have someone really, really care than someone that doesn't care enough. But it seems like it's pretty clear that he needs to take a little bit of a step back here. If he's going to continue being the president of baseball operations for this Padres team and the GM, which it seems like he will, he's got to let the coaching staff go do their job. He's got to let other people in this organization go do their job and trust that they know what they're doing. When he hired Bob Melvin, that was supposed to take a lot off of his shoulders, right? Because you have Andy Green, Jace Tingler, you're probably telling them a lot of things like what they should do, right? But now you bring in Bob Melvin, and this guy has all the experience in the world. He has Matt Williams on his staff, Ryan Christensen. You can go down the line, and you're like, okay, pressure's off of me now, right? I mean, I just hired a great manager, respected by all players, rave reviews, had success with limited resources in Oakland. All right, I can step back here. I can sit and relax, put my feet up on the desk. I'm good. But it seems like that's not what AJ has done here. And he can't help himself but continue to try to be involved every single day with every little thing with this organization at the major league level, it feels like, when maybe he should just lean into what he is really good at, which is evaluating talent and like that scouting background. Hey, I think I've criticized him in the past for like maybe not being with the big league club enough. But after reading this report here this morning, it's like, how about no. How about go scout some more 14-year-olds, some more 17-year-olds, go do that more so you can let the coaching staff, the major league staff, do their jobs and not be so into that. So going back to Bob Melvin again, I just wonder why Bob Melvin would want to stay in 2024. Can he deal with AJ Preller again in 2024? And maybe we're probably not even going to get to the answer of that. We're probably not going to get to that point of Melvin in 2024 because I feel like Melvin's going to be gone after this season. And AJ is going to be allowed to bring in another manager, or maybe it's Melvin's going to be like, I just can't deal with this anymore. I'm going to step away. Maybe Bob Melvin's going to go to Peter and be like, AJ or me, because it's just not working. One of us has to go. So who are you going to pick? And I feel like it would be AJ Preller. I mean, Seidler's the one that said AJ is excellence in July. Maybe not a lot of things have changed. I mean, they weren't that great back then, and now they're still not that great. But he didn't say that same thing about Bob Melvin. And AJ's the one that's been here for almost a decade. So I think that he would stick with AJ Preller. And with Bob Melvin, he would just say, okay, it's not working. I believe in AJ. Thank you so much for 2022. We're going to try to go in a different direction. I'm sorry that it didn't work, but AJ's my guy. I believe in him. I feel like that's what's going to happen here. But man, it's going to suck if Bob Melvin loses his job, because it's clear with all of this stuff, like it's not Bob Melvin's. Is there any big piece coming out about how bad Bob Melvin is? No, there's no piece that's coming out about how bad Bob Melvin is, right? Kevin Acee wrote a piece about the Padres leadership, and Manny Machado was the central piece of that, right? Then there's this. The central piece of this, it feels like, is AJ Preller and the front office, right? And some of the things that AJ Preller has done, some of the hires that he has made. Is there a long piece that's come out from someone about how bad Bob Melvin is? Some of the bad things Bob Melvin does? No, because he's not the problem. I think it's pretty clear here. Like, he's made some mistakes managing wise, sure. situationally, just like every manager in baseball history has done. No manager in baseball history, at least that I know, has been perfect. But Bob Melvin, in terms of like the big picture stuff, why this team is failing, it's not because of something that Bob Melvin is doing. You know, Bob, I feel like he's not going to be here, and it just sucks to say that. It really sucks to say that. All right, quick break, and then I'm going to get to some more takeaways from this article.
I want to tell you about the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports. It's Underdog Fantasy. They have great pick'em games and best ball tournaments. In pickup games, just pick higher or lower on 2 to 5 players' stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. You can go cross-team, cross-league, and even cross-sport. Best ball revolves around the draft, which is what every fan loves the most about fantasy, and it eliminates the hassle of having to manage your roster all season long, resulting in a fun and easy fantasy product. How does it work exactly? You enter a contest where you participate in a snake draft against other users. That lineup that you drafted competes against every other draft in the entire contest. The better the combined performance of your team, the more money you win. After your lineup is all played, Underdog will take the best performing players and automatically set them as your starting lineup. That's it. No waivers, no trades, no worrying about who to start or sit. After you complete your draft, your part is done. Underdog Fantasy offers best ball in a variety of ways, including daily contests, weekly contests, playoff contests, and season-long contests. You can either enter into these and compete against thousands of other entrants for huge prizes, or, if you'd like, you can enter into a private draft with friends and family to compete for a smaller prize pool. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Sign up now by clicking the link in the description or by using the promo code TALKINGFRIARS, and you'll double your first deposit up to $100 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit of $10 or more. So if you deposit $100, you get $100 free. If you deposit $10, you get $10 free.
All right. Next part that I want to get to here, Don Tricker. Never heard of this name going into this article. Don Tricker. But it was a good part of this article. And we had never heard of Don Tricker because he's not someone that has this baseball background. It's not like Mike Schilt or Josh Stein, even assistant GM, or Fred Ullman Jr., like who we know that's been there a long time. I'd never heard of Don Tricker's name, but the guy's been here for like 6 years, I guess. And so this is from, again, the article here, Dennis Lin, Ken Rosenthal. Soon after the 2017 season ended, Preller made an unusual hire. Don Tricker, the Padres' new director of player health and performance, had come to San Diego from the other side of the world. He has history, and as you can read in this article, has history for New Zealand's famed All Blacks, the most successful rugby team of all time. So he was hired by Preller, expected to oversee multiple departments, including the medical and training staff and the analytics department. One former Padres coach saying he was brought in to change the culture. So you're bringing in a rugby dude to come change the team's culture. To many here, and by the way, he does have experience, I guess, men's national softball team for New Zealand. I have no idea, like, how much experience or what happened there with that, but okay. It's still not Major League Baseball or, any team in America. But I like AJ thinking outside the box. But when you read this, it's like, why is this guy still here? What is this dude's job? Like, there's a title for this guy. If you go look at the Padres front office directory and you go look up this guy's name, it's in there. And you see it. Tricker, Don Tricker. You go to medical and training staff on the Padres front office directory. He is at the top, ahead of the head athletic trainer, Mark Rigaud, ahead of the Major League assistant athletic trainer, Ben Frazier, and Ricky Huerta, who you see on the field when, like, someone Like when I think Cosgrove was on the mound last night, and Ben Frazier came out with Bob Melvin to check on him, right? Like Don Tricker, he is the head guy, the first name, director, player health and performance, medical and training staff section for the Padres in their front office directory. But according to this article, he doesn't possess a medical background. He was quickly shifted away from analytics oversight because he arrived with a rudimentary knowledge of baseball. So like he doesn't know a ton about baseball. He was brought in to change the culture, but they have him heading something, but he doesn't have a medical background. So why is he heading this department? What is this dude's job? And it seems like this guy was like a spy in this organization. Preller says he may not be the content expert in those areas. That's why we have our strength coaches, we have our athletic trainers. That's their job. His job is to make sure that they're asking the right questions, they're in communication with each other, they're on the same page, big picture wise. Okay, that kind of makes sense. Okay. But then you have one former front office staffer saying, I don't know what Don does, honestly. He doesn't know. People don't know what this guy does. And he's been here for 6 years. And if you look at the track record just of on-field success, it's not that great. Still, almost 6 years after his hiring here, Rosenthal and Lynn write, many current and former Padre players, coaches, and other employees continue to express consternation about Tricker's responsibilities. Tricker, especially early on, frequented the clubhouse and sat in on player and staff meetings, quietly taking notes. Some believe he's effectively a spy for the front office. Padres don't allow front office employees to speak to the media without permission. Yes, we know that. So some believe he's essentially a spy for the front office because he's in there. Imagine you're sitting there as a Padres coach or player or whatever, and you're in a meeting, and this dude, Don Tricker, is in there taking notes. And he doesn't give you like feedback. This was an ex-coach said this. All he was doing was judging. He never provided any feedback to any coach or player. So this dude's just in there sitting as part of the meeting, taking notes, and then he doesn't give feedback to the players on, oh, what should be happening here? What are we doing wrong? What do you see? What's your expertise that you can help give us and maybe have us think from a different perspective because you're coming from a different perspective than us in New Zealand, right? Like no feedback. It wasn't giving feedback to coaches or players. It seems like he was just going back to AJ Preller and saying and asking AJ and the organization questions like, why aren't players taking batting practice off of high velo machines when later that night they're going to be facing high velo pitchers? And that does kind of make sense. But like little questions like that, but why not say that to the players themselves or to the coaches themselves? And again, let those guys do their job instead of going to AJ saying stuff. And then AJ goes down and talks to coaches and like undermines Bob Melvin because he's talking to Ryan Flaherty or whoever and saying, hey, implement pitching machines for batting practice today. This guy needs extra work, blah, 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 blah. Instead of just having Don Tricker or have AJ sit in on those meetings and then directly tell coaches, players, hey, how about let's go do this today? Let's try this. Let's try this. It's just like, couldn't things just be made a whole lot easier? Why is Don Tricker still in this organization? Like, that's a question that I have. Not everyone, just to be fair, says here, not everyone had a poor experience with Tricker. One former staffer said Tricker, as an outsider to the sport, regularly posed thought-provoking questions. Why, for example, did the Padres take batting practice that did not replicate the intensity of in-game pitching? But Tricker here said, or Tricker originally said he hoped to get employees more time off to spend with their families. However, those employees said such assurances gradually disappeared while Tricker's boss exerted his influence throughout the organization. It's just like, what? Does this guy still need to be in the organization? So you got people in the organization that don't like what AJ's doing. Then you add that on to you got people in the organization that don't like this Don Tricker guy, but then he stays in the organization. These people continue to stay in the organization, and it doesn't seem like they're changing. Like, what's the point of Don Tricker? What is this guy's actual job? He can have a job title, but what's his actual job? It's to spy. It's just to be essentially a spy, sit there in the meetings and then report back to AJ Preller what is going on in these meetings. Why can't AJ Preller be a part of these meetings? If he wants to be so hands-on, why doesn't he be a part of these meetings then? And Preller can have the direct communication with players, with coaches. I don't know, with Bob Melvin. And I was listening to Darren Smith earlier today, and he's talking about how he heard, I guess, at some point in time this year that Melvin and Preller didn't talk for like weeks. That shouldn't be happening. Or maybe it should be happening if AJ's just letting Bob do his job, but not because these two are just totally disconnected and there's a rift between the two. It should be a positive, I'm not really talking to you. I'm not really communicating, if that makes sense. But this is the negative part of not really communicating. And so, yeah, things need to be changed. And I go back to the unfixable thing. One Padres player thinking that this relationship between Melvin and Preller, unfixable. I don't believe that it's unfixable. If AJ goes in there and talks face-to-face with Bomel and says, I want you here for 2024. I realize you're a good manager. I hired you in the first place because I believe that you're a good manager and you could lead this team to a World Series. I'm going to keep you for 2024. And I realize after reading stuff, talking to people, I realize that I need to change. And so I'm going to take a little bit of a step back in this organization here, and I'm going to let you and your coaching staff do your job next season. I'm not going to provide a whole lot of input. And if I do, I'm going to talk directly to you and run it by you. And if AJ can actually do that, then I think the relationship can be more fixed. It can be fixed. You know, relationships can be fixed if people are willing to change. But AJ, after 2021, hasn't been willing to change. It's been 2 years later, and it's like the same stuff that's being written about AJ Preller here. You know? Same stuff. This is from the 2021 article from Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal here, okay? Almost everyone speaks highly of Preller's talent evaluation, ability, work ethic, and creativity, but in interviews with more than 20 current and former Padres staffers, players, and rival officials, almost all of whom spoke on the condition of anonymity, a number of criticisms emerged. The most common involved Preller's reputation as a micromanager, his track record of dubious roster construction, and a perceived tendency to shift blame. It's the same stuff that was talked about in this article here, the 2023 article by the same people, Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal, who wrote this. The dubious roster construction, I mean, he's kind of taken shots, Melvin has, at Preller in post-game press conferences about that's how I've always liked to do things, is get everyone involved. And that didn't really happen early on in the season. The tendency to shift blame, that was hit on in this coaching staff thing here. Let me find it. I forget where it was here in this article. Here, this is one former Padres coach. It's hard to be in a situation where you really want to celebrate with people and win with people who you know, when you're not doing well, are consistently jumping off the boat. They're blaming you for the leak in the raft. I think AJ is not great at recognizing the culture cost of him putting his finger on the thumb of the coaching staff, a former team executive said. So, you know, one former staff member here said he had never worked in an organization where players dealt with as much criticism. Some Padres coaches throughout Preller's tenure have said they felt nitpicked by the front office. So again, Preller, micromanaging, tendency to shift blame, nitpick things about the coaching staff, instead of him just saying it's me, my fault, I need to change how I operate, instead of shifting blame on other people, cycling through so many coaches, cycling through managers. Maybe I need to change what I'm doing here and let people do their jobs. I don't know. That's just what it feels like here with AJ Preller. But yeah, this Don Tricker dude, I just don't understand what his role actually is with this Padres team. I'd never heard of the guy. and I'm someone that not knows personally, but like I know the name of people in the Padres front office. Like if you point out their name, yeah, I've heard that name before. Yeah. But I didn't connect any dots. I didn't look the guy up until this morning. I have a picture on my Twitter at Talking Friars if you want to go look at it of what Don Tricker looks like, because now Don Tricker's like the guy that's getting a lot of heat and people want that guy gone. And I kind of agree because it's like, I mean, what is the guy's role? He's been here for 6 years, and what has happened? What positives, big positives, has he brought to this Padres organization? I just don't know. And people in the clubhouse are uncomfortable with Don Tricker. So why is he still in the organization? Why is he still? I don't know. I don't know if this is true, if he is still down there, because I think Bob Melvin's probably sick and tired of that, and he probably said, no more of you, Don Tricker, down here. But it's just like it's alarming. There was another hire that was mentioned here. I forget the guy's name, but he was working in the Marlins organization, I believe, or he used to work with the Marlins organization. Earlier this summer, former Miami Marlins executive Bill Masse, I don't know how you say his name, Masse, joined the organization as a baseball operations advisor and has become a regular presence during batting practice and inside the batting cages at Petco Park, even though the Padres already had 3 hitting coaches. Former Cardinals manager Mike Shildt, now a Padres senior advisor for player development and the major leagues, has been in uniform with the team for most of this season, an unusual situation for an advisor. So it's like there's a lot of guys that are coming in, and the coaching staff's probably like, who is this dude? Why is this guy coming in? You hire Mike. Now, Mike Shildt, obviously former manager of the Cardinals, like seems like he knows what he would be doing. And there have been some circumstances where it's like, yeah, it makes sense for Mike Shildt to be in the dugout because there's other coaches that have been like they had COVID and stuff like that. But like, okay, you hired these people to be on the coaching staff and be full-time on the coaching staff. Then why are you bringing other people in to add to this coaching staff and give their input on things instead of just letting the coaching staff do their jobs? And if it doesn't work out, okay, then it's on that coaching staff. But now when you insert people in addition to the coaching staff that you already put together under Bob Melvin, it's like, okay, now we're probably going to shift the blame to you because you're the guy that thought that this was a good idea to bring more coaches in. You know, be a regular presence during batting practice and inside the batting cages at Petco Park, even though the Padres, you already have 3 hitting coaches on Bob Melvin's staff. It's just, one player says here, in some senses, I feel like the finger gets pointed at the next guy instead of, you're the head of the organization. You need to take the reins of this, implement some sort of structure. So like when you have people questioning the structure of things, that's a problem. Like it doesn't feel like there's a real structure of it. Guys are given titles in this organization, and then it feels like their title isn't what they actually do. They do way more than that, than what they're given. Or guys that have titles on this coaching staff, they aren't really allowed to totally do what they want to do because you have AJ Preller coming in here talking to them and saying, do this, do this, do this, when they want to do something else. And yeah, I'd be pissed off if I was a coach on that coaching staff, or if I was Bob Melvin and I see AJ Preller continuing to be in the dugout and in the clubhouse and talking to my coaches and telling them to do things that you're not having me be a part of those conversations in. Like, it's like, why is this happening? It's pretty mind-boggling. I see John here. Sorry, John. I was looking at the Athletic article. I don't know how long you've been in here, but
No, I just read the article as well. So I wanted to be on the same page while we're here and stuff like that. Good to see you again. Hope you're doing well.
Good to see you. Thank you. You too.
It's you know what? Bad news comes in threes. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get another long expose on where
Is
AJ
it gonna be
Preller
on
is.
is it gonna be on Bob Melvin, though? Like, here's the thing, like, Manny, Clubhouse, that was written by AC. You got Preller by Lynn and Rosenthal. Bob Melvin's not gonna get some bad piece on him because he's not the problem, but I feel like he's gonna be the scapegoat of this.
Yeah, and that's the problem is that I wish that he kind of would. I like Bo Mel first and foremost. I remember, I think our last conversation that we had or whatever about just where this organization is or whatever. I mean, every single one of these pieces and articles from Kevin Acee and Dennis Lin have just been about AJ Preller first and foremost. You know what I mean? I know we can point blame at the players, and I do believe that there's a large responsibility of these players. I mean, AJ Preller's not swinging the bat, Bo Mel's not swinging
Mhm.
the bat, right? But I just don't think that it falls on Bo Mel. And I think everyone, and it's funny enough, I follow a bunch of A's. I live in the Bay Area, and a lot of the A's people who are very big fans of Bomel, who've known Bomel for 10 years, they're like, it ain't Bomel for that is dealing with these problems and stuff like that. And what is the definition of insanity, Ben? The
Yeah, you
definition of
keep doing the
insanity,
same thing over and over and over again.
and that is the biggest thing I pulled from this article, is that you have an insane person at the top doing the same thing over and over again. When the chips are down and things aren't going his way, he results to the same level of organizational habits that he does, nitpicking things, micromanaging things. And this is nothing new. If you're such as yourself, this is nothing new in terms of understanding AJ Preller. He is a habitual guy, and he'll do the same exact things that'll kind of bring down the culture of this organization. And I mean, I'm willing to give AJ Preller credit. You know what I mean? He's definitely put this organization to an interesting standpoint in terms of the farm system, in terms of recruiting people and stuff like that. I look at Tom Cosgrove and I look at Steven Wilson as a great example of pitchers who've gone up in this league, even Campusano, who've gone up in this organization and done very, very well. But the bottom line is that, like, when push comes to shove at this very, very high level of baseball, he needs to go. He needs to go, man. And we need someone with a much more respectable leadership qualities in the organization, in the front office, that is willing to, respect the rules of a baseball organization, I would say. And letting the coaches coach, let the players do their thing, stay in your lane, essentially, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and
That's,
I'm not saying, like, he can't be involved with the big league coaching staff and have conversations.
of
I
course.
know that you should have conversations. Like, as the GM, as the president of baseball ops, you should have conversations with the manager because there's roster moves that have to be made and trade deadline and off season and all that. But it
Yeah.
feels like he stepped over that line where you have players talking about it. You have former staffers talking about it now that they're not with the organization. You have coaches talking about it and wondering what roles certain people have that are coming into the clubhouse and sitting in on meetings and stuff like that. It's like, do we see other organizations have these articles written about those president of baseball ops or those GMs about how much they micromanage, or about these Don Trickle dudes or whatever this guy's name is coming
Hmm.
in and, doing stuff that players don't even know what their role is? Like, these aren't written. You don't have articles written 2 years apart about, like, the same stuff, but it happens with AJ Preller. And Peter Seidler, obviously, he's dealing with health issues. That's way more important than this. I
Of course.
understand that. But he's known about this. He's had to have known about this before whatever has happened recently. Now,
Yeah.
2022, he's a Padres fan, obviously, so emotional, masked probably all that is happening here. And he obviously loves AJ Preller. AJ is excellence, but how can he read this stuff from 2021, from 2023, even the Kevin Acee stuff? Like, how can he read this stuff and be like, yeah, I'm fine with having Bob Melvin go and AJ Preller? No, no, no. All this stuff, I'm throwing that totally out to the trash. Doesn't matter. AJ is still the guy. He has no problems. He's the guy moving forward. Definitely him. How can he arrive at that resolution? Not even resolution. How can he arrive at that point? I just don't see how that can happen, but I feel like that's what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, I think I don't know. I think in Peter Seidler's case, and I think a lot of these players or whatever, it's like they don't really listen to the media because the media, I think, has a job to do in order to create some sort of sensation, in order to create a sort of buzz about, a certain story or whatever. So I think, and I mean, AJ Preller has Peter Seidler has a personal relationship, with AJ Preller, right? So he obviously probably looks at, these articles and is like probably saying like, oh, this is probably a mischaracterization of the relationship I have with AJ Preller. You know what I mean? Um, uh, and I think that, you know, I look at it as the record. Really, I think it's the most glaring thing about AJ Preller. In if I was Peter Seidler, right? And I mean, obviously, what he probably hears about AJ Preller is probably very scathing, and obviously these articles aren't probably doing him justice, or whatever. But I bet he probably heard that the second AJ Preller was in, signed Manny Machado or Will Myers or Eric Hosmer and stuff like that. He hears cloud all the time. I think that's the nature of being in sports, right? You just hear all these doubters, and you got to prove them wrong and stuff like that. But if I spoke to Peter Seidler, I would be like, listen, Peter, I know you believe in AJ Preller and he's gotten you a lot and he's done a lot for this organization or whatever, but you have to look at the overall picture. In the time that he has been with this organization, there have been many, many accusations of toxicity. There has been many, many accusations of just people not really feeling respected in the organization and stuff like that. And on top of that, you're the winning record, for God's sakes. The winning record of this man. He's only had one winning record in his entire 9 years of being the GM. What does that say? Does that say that that this organization is on the right track? Does it say? It just seems to me as if he just took all Peter Seidler's money and spent it. And it's amounted to not much. What does that say? It all starts from the top, personally. It all starts from the top. That's my thought.
Yeah. And Seidler can say, well, I only started judging in 2020 when I took over. Okay, still look at 2020. Who knows if they would have made the postseason if it was a full season, because there was injuries that happened there. 2021, there was a freaking collapse. 2022, okay, they made it to the postseason, went on a run, but there clearly was still problems there. And this season, look what has happened. So is it good enough for Peter Seidler that this Padres team makes the postseason 50% of the time with AJ Preller? In an expanded postseason now, you're okay with what happened this season, and as long as they make the postseason next year, everything's going to be fine. Like, with the team that is here, other GMs and other president of baseball operations, I feel like, would be able to do much more with what is here than what AJ Preller has done. Like, that just feels like the bottom line to me. And I'm just super interested in what Seidler has to say, and if he even will speak. I mean, I was listening to Darren Smith earlier today, and it doesn't even seem like Seidler will speak at the end of the season because of what he's dealing with. But it's just like, I just want to know, has his thoughts changed on AJ's excellence? And if you still think AJ is excellent, why do you think that? Are you don't have the internet and you're not reading these articles? Like, why do you still think that AJ is this most perfect? He might think that AJ is the most perfect human being because of the personal relationship and all that. But how can you say he's the most excellent GM to ever exist when Chaim Bloom got 4 seasons with the Boston Red Sox and he's viewed as one of the brightest minds in baseball? He got 4 years. And guess what? When he got fired, I believe the Red Sox were over 500 when that happened. Like, he made their farm system from 30th to top 5. He got 4 years. AJ's gotten 9 seasons here. And what has happened? The Padres are in the same spot as the Red Sox in terms of results over that time frame. Chaim Bloom's 4 years, AJ's 9, 1 CS appearance. That's it. And so other teams are realizing, yep, we got to move in a different direction. The White Sox, I don't agree with Chris Getz and just bringing him up, but they still made a change there. The Mets bring in David Stearns. We need someone else, someone better to oversee Billy Epler and the rest of this organization. They made changes to the front office as well. They're realizing, okay, we need change. And the Red Sox, Sam Kennedy, the president, was like, when asked by reporters after letting go Chaim Bloom, the ownership letting go Bloom, the expectation here is winning World Series championships. That's just the expectation. And over these 4 years with Chaim Bloom, it just wasn't good enough. The results were not good enough, so we're making a change. Essentially, is what
Yeah.
he said.
Yeah.
It just feels like they don't have those same expectations for the Padres, because if they did, then a change would have been made already.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I get Peter's side. There's understanding. Consistency is key, right? If you constantly shake it up or whatever, then that's the case. But I just look at also the managers as well. I mean, in the article they were talking about how, I think 4 managers in the last 6 years or something like that, which is
Something, yeah, it's
something like that, crazy. And then tons of hitting coaches and secondary staff and stuff like that. At what point do you say that it's definitely not the coaching? It's I mean, obviously you can point at Jace Tingler and other things like that or whatever. But I mean, like, this is Bomel, and who's the next alternative? Schilt, because he's probably not going to want to coach. Or even if he does it solve anything from the major issues that are involved in this organization? I mean, I think Bomel is a big improvement from previous coaches. But at the end of the day, who are you going to point to? The only person you can point to is AJ Preller, honestly. And you know what? I wish that Peter Seidler would give AJ Preller a handshake and say, like, you know what? You have set this franchise up for success in the future. You've given us a lot of great, players and opportunities, such as Juan Soto and Xander Bogaerts and Manny Machado. And thank you so much for your help. Now go to the Dominican Republic and watch from the sidelines, buddy, because we're going a new direction. I mean, it's
offer him, if he wants to take the head scouting job, give him all the scouting opportunities that he wants in the organization, because we know he is great at that. Everyone
Great
says
scout.
he is great at that. Everyone.
Great scout. Great scout.
President
Terrible
Baseball
GM.
Operations, the GM part, not that great.
Yeah.
Results wise, not that great.
I don't know. There's just so many blaring things within AJ Preller's record that you really just can't excuse. Even if you like the guy, it's a business, man. I mean, come on, we're kind of at a perilous cliff with all this. We got the, we don't have the TV rights anymore, and we also have these lot more bigger contracts, and like, what's going to be the attendance next year, and also raising ticket prices as well. I mean, like, you're kind of in this precarious situation already. So I mean, like, what? At the end of the day, you gotta win. You gotta win, and in order to keep this party going, and not only that, you got to beat the Dodgers, and you got to win the division, and you got to prove to these fans once more that this is a team worth sticking around. It all starts from the top. AJ Preller, you gotta go.
Yep. All right. Thank you, John. Appreciate the time, man. Have a good one. All right.
You too.
Man, it's just frustrating. Just reading this, I knew something else was probably going to. Oh, sorry. I knew something else was probably going to come out about AJ Preller, the front office. There had to have been like some type of follow-up piece, because if AC is going to do a piece on Manny Machado, players in the clubhouse, stuff like that, I would think that something's going to come out about the front office. Maybe not from AC, but from someone. I wasn't expecting it to happen this morning. When did this story drop? Something like 2:00 in the morning or something. I was not expecting it to drop now, but I guess I wasn't expecting the Kevin AC piece to drop when it did either. They're not going to wait till after the year, right? If they have the information, they know the season's already over, these reporters. They're not going to wait. They're going to drop the information, and it's going to hit. So we'll see. We'll see if AJ addresses the media today. If I was AJ, I'd probably wait till the end of the season to do it. But he's got a lot of questions to answer. And if Peter Seidler decides to speak, if his health allows him to do that, obviously, again, wishing him the best, and health is obviously the most important. If he is up for it, he's going to have a lot of questions to answer as well. Why is AJ the guy? Why do you continue to think that AJ is the most amazing thing ever since like sliced bread? Why do you think he is the best to do this? Why do you think that nobody else could go in and do a better job than AJ Preller has? Why is that? If AJ's still the guy, what does he need to do differently about how he operates? Have you read Kevin AC's article? Have you read Dennis Lin's article and Ken Rosenthal, the piece that they put out, Peter? If you have, I'm pretty sure he has. I would want to read it, because it's stuff that's coming in from inside of your organization. What's going to change? How are you going to change it? How can you prevent 2023 from happening again in 2024, 2025, ever again? If you have this much talent on a team, this should never happen, but it's happened. There's some other stuff that was put in this article about Preller trying to be a friend with the players, and he has Melvin and the coaches deliver tougher messages. As I mentioned earlier, like Billy Beane, Bob Melvin was used to him being at 40,000 feet, but Preller, he's at like 10,000 feet. Beane let Melvin like do his job. Doesn't seem like that's what really Preller is doing. I mean, he'll let Melvin do his job, obviously, but like you get what I'm saying. He's way closer to this situation than Billy Beane was, than David Forst was, who also was with the A's alongside Billy Beane when Bob Melvin was there for like a decade. And he had success. He had a good amount of success with those A's teams with a lot less talent than this, a lot less financial flexibility, but maybe a little more resources in terms of like front office analytics smartness. I don't know. Because I think I remember seeing that at some point earlier this season. But yeah, Preller's at like 10,000 feet and in the dugout on an ongoing basis, essentially. And it goes back to the micromanaging and just let Bob Melvin do his job. Let the coaching staff that you freaking hired, let them do their job. Or how about you fire those coaches and you just go be a coach too, AJ? You be the president, the GM, and you go be a coach. If you're not going to let those people just go do their jobs. You can give input. I'm not saying he can't talk with the coaches. Of course he can talk with the coaches. But like insisting that players get off a velo machine, these guys need to be doing this, not this, having Don Trickle be in there as he was, and people in the organization don't even know what he really does and why he's even really here. Like little things like that. It just feels like he has stepped over the line and he needs to get back on the other side of that line. That's how they can fix this relationship between Melvin and Preller. One player here obviously saying unfixable, but it can be fixed if AJ changes. Because I don't think it's Bob Melvin I don't think he's the one that needs to change here. I think it's AJ, the guy that hired Bob Melvin to be the manager. I think he's the one that needs to change a little bit how he's doing things. Manny was talked about here in this article about Manny not being the classic leader, too temperamental, inconsistent in his behavior, and that seems kind of like the case. And Kevin obviously wrote in detail about Manny and other guys in the clubhouse and not following through on things, maybe not doing the small little things. So that's I don't want to really expand too much on that because I already hit on that for like an hour and a half on a previous show. So you can go watch or listen to that reaction to that Kevin Acee article that came out last week. Man, that seems like such a long time ago compared to now, looking back on it now, because of what has happened since then with the Manny surgery stuff and this, obviously. Before I get to what can change here, or what probably should change, what should be a good start to this change, what could be. There were rumors talked about here about the Padres being short on cash. Seidler selling off pieces of the club. Team officials, though, say that's not true. So we'll see what happens with that. We know that the Padres are losing money this season because they're not getting all the Bally money. And there is a lot of money that comes from the TV deal, obviously. Major League Baseball, only for this season. It's not for future years, I don't think, for the Bally money. But for this season, they're giving the Padres 80% of what Bally was, or Diamond Sports Group, the parent company, was going to give the Padres. So they're losing money on that. They might be having record attendance, but there's obviously a huge payroll, the biggest payroll they've ever had, and they're not getting as much money as they thought they were going to get back, or that they thought they were going to be getting from Bally to be broadcasting their games. They don't have a TV deal in place for the future where they're going to broadcast their games. Are they going to give it to a network? Is it just going to be Major League Baseball still? Don't know about that. There's a ton of money that's going to be spent on Gallagher Square renovating that, right? So that costs money. But I don't see Seidler selling off pieces of the club here. I think he's fine. I think he's fine right now. Obviously, he has bigger fish to fry about like personal health and all that. But that was talked about here, but team officials say that it's not true. And then the other thing that I had here, players and staffers say that building a culture of trust would be a good place to start. Like, how can the Padres change this? How can things get better? And yeah, culture of trust would be a good place to start because there's not enough of it in this organization. Because if there was trust between AJ Preller and the coaching staff, AJ would not be as involved with the coaching staff as it seems like he is, right? He doesn't trust Bob Melvin enough. Doesn't trust Bob Melvin's coaching staff enough. And it's interesting. Like Ryan Flaherty, it seems like AJ made Bob Melvin keep some of the guys that were here previously. He made Bob Melvin, it seems like. I don't know this for a fact, but I don't know if Bob Melvin wanted Ryan Flaherty to be a part of this coaching staff. But AJ wanted Ryan Flaherty to stay. He's the one that rejected the Mets being able to interview Ryan Flaherty, I think for like a lateral bench coach position. So that's why the Padres put like bench coach / offensive coordinator on Ryan Flaherty's position. So technically, no one could go get him. Technically, it would be a lateral move. So they blocked that. So does Bob Melvin want Ryan Flaherty there? And so is Preller having conversations with guys like Ryan Flaherty that are on this coaching staff from previous coaching staffs about, hey, I want this player to do this to do this. But then Bob Melvin and other guys are going to those players and saying, I want you to do this. But then that player might be saying, well, no. AJ told me I should be doing this. Miscommunicate, just not enough communication, not enough trust. Talk to each other. Don't go around each other and relay stuff through other people. There was I think this was a good piece or a good quote about like a relationship between parents, I think is what was said here. Yeah. One player, this is about the Preller and Melvin relationship. One player, while careful not to absolve himself and his teammates of blame, likened the situation to a toxic relationship between parents in which the kids suffer. If nobody's on the same page and you're getting two stories from two different people, there is not trust there. The players are going to feel like, well, who can I confide in? Who can I talk to? You're getting two different stories. Okay, what's the actual truth? What should I actually be doing? I'm not getting the same consistent message. People aren't pulling on the same rope for a certain topic. And again, people disagreeing, that can be okay. But it feels like this has gone too far where sometimes they're not talking. And Melvin, it's almost like he's just done with AJ Preller. And so I don't know if he's going to want to come back in 2024. Because if he doesn't believe AJ is going to change, does he want to deal with this again in 2024? Because it feels pretty sure that AJ is going to stay in 2024. You know? So, yeah, I'm pretty frustrated. Not all this stuff is like new information. Like there was stuff out there. There were people talking about, yeah, Preller Melvin, that relationship, not great. But to be have it, written in this article, a bunch of, former staffers and people in the organization questioning stuff. You got this Don Trickle dude. Is that his name? Don? Yeah, Don, not Trickle. Don Tricker. You got him in here. Don't even really know what his role is. You got other coaches being added on and being in the batting cage, adding on to other coaches that were hired to do their job, but then Preller's bringing in other guys to help with that. Like, just lack of trust. Lack of trust is what I feel like it comes down to, and that needs to get better. That needs to change for this Padres organization to be consistent. Consistent messaging in the organization. Probably to have more consistent success is what needs to change. The culture of trust. All right. Another quick break, and then I'm going to get to the chat here.
Check out Gaglione Bros' famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries on Friars Road. You can visit their website, gaglionebros.com, for their entire menu and enjoy their cheesesteaks and fries at Petco Park and Snapdragon Stadium as well.
All right. I'm not going to be able to get to everyone, so if you want to make sure I get to your comment or your question, just use that super chat button, and I will definitely get to all of those. It supports the channel, makes it very easy for me to see your comment or your question. So I appreciate anyone who does that. But I'm going to try to get to some different viewpoints here. Mike says, if AJ stays, and I predict he will, then I hope Bob Melvin is fired and gets to manage a real Major League Baseball team instead of this zoo. He's too good of a manager and too good of a person for this crap. Yeah. Again, I'm on Bo Mel's side here. Like, this isn't, you're not going to see, I'd be shocked if you saw like a piece like this on Bob Melvin and how much of a problem he is in the Padres organization and players not liking him. Because it's not going to happen. Let's see here. Mark says, as long as AJ micromanages this team, it doesn't matter who the manager is. AJ needs to back off, let the manager do his job. AJ is the Major League Baseball version of Jerry Jones. Yeah, you could say that. I mean, Jerry Jones, he owns the franchise, and he's like their GM, I think, for the Cowboys. So that's a little bit different. But maybe it's not that different because Peter just he lets AJ do whatever he wants. It seems like AJ convinces Peter to make big signings, and Peter allows it to happen. AJ is okay, or AJ probably pitches, hey, okay, we need to let go of Andy Green. It happens. We need to let go of Jay Singler. It happens. He'll probably pitch Bob Melvin. We need to go in different directions. Maybe that happens. So, like, Jerry Jones can literally do anything because he's like the head decision maker. He doesn't have to go consult with anyone. But it almost feels like sometimes Preller doesn't have to consult with anyone because Peter gives him the keys to the kingdom and just he's able to do whatever he wants. Mike says Bogaerts has seen plenty of good managers in Boston, and he thinks Melvin is a great communicator and manager. Yeah, I would say Alex Cora is one of the better communicators and managers in baseball. So he knows what a good one is, and he thinks that about Bob Melvin. Yeah, it's not on Bob Melvin. Mike says AJ Preller is the reason Bruce Bochy wanted no part of returning to this team. Yeah. That should have been a red flag to Bomel, like I said earlier. Let's see here. Brent says Don Tricker was head coach of the New Zealand softball team. He won 7 world champs. Okay. I mean, that has nothing to do with Major League Baseball, though. And I'm not saying that you can't hire someone from the outside, but it feels like he's kind of, or Preller maybe, has allowed Don Tricker to step over that line and be too involved. And if players in front of, and people in the organization don't understand what the dude's role is, I think that's kind of a problem too, isn't it? M. Garza says Aaron Boone might be available, maybe after the season. I don't know about that. Didn't he just sign a new contract, though? And again, like, if Bob Melvin couldn't solve this, couldn't take this team to the postseason, it's not like Aaron Boone is going to come in and take this team to the postseason because of Aaron Boone. It would be because players perform better. And maybe Preller can back off a little bit. Let's see here. Continuing to go through the chat. Como says the fans need to demand more from Peter Seidler, not money, but organization competence. Yeah, I mean, and I do demand a little bit more from Peter. Now, I say this meaning like I demand a little bit more when he is like fully ready to do that. Obviously, health is the main priority. And I feel a little bit weird saying like, no, Peter Seidler, I demand more from him because we know what he's dealing with, obviously, with the statement that he released yesterday. We don't totally know what he's dealing with, but we know that he underwent medical procedure, right? And he's on the road to recovery. So he's probably not feeling that great. But when he is ready, yeah, like take a look in the mirror or take a look at AJ Preller, a long look. And I think I said this earlier in the season, like bring someone in that is unbiased, has no emotional leaning towards AJ Preller or towards anything. And it's just going to give you their unfiltered thoughts about what needs to change in this organization. You know? Maybe Theo Epstein doesn't want to be the GM, the president of baseball ops, but maybe you can bring him in for a couple weeks and observe things and see how that goes, if he's willing to do that. I don't see that happening, but I'm just throwing stuff against the wall and see if it sticks. Because at this point, it feels like, why not try to change something? Why not try to do something? Because it's clearly not working right now. Yeah, Mike. Can't wait to hear AJ's excuse for firing Bob Melvin. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it gets to that point. It feels like it's going to go that direction. Like if a player's labeling this as unfixable, I mean, it's pretty bad then. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's not great. Not great. I still keep seeing this. Kirsten says, I still like Ozzie Guillen. But again, I go back to Bob Melvin. If Bob Melvin can't do this, then why would Ozzie Guillen be able to do this? Ozzie Guillen's going to be able to do something that Bob Melvin wasn't able to do? You know? Last year, they made it to the NLCS with Bob Melvin. So Bob Melvin just forgot how to manage this season, and he became a dumb manager, a bad manager. Like, I just don't buy that. Devin says Dodgers, Rays, Braves, Giants, Phillies, and the Orioles don't have a spy in their front office. At least not as we know of. Like, again, I go back. I think I was talking with John about this when he came on here a few moments ago. Like, where do you see Ken Rosenthal writing deep pieces about the president of baseball ops or the GM of another team and talking about, oh, he's essentially maybe a spy for the for AJ, for the front office? Or you can just take that part out of it. Where do you see these big writers writing in-depth pieces about the president of baseball operations, the GM, the chief baseball officer, whatever you want to say? Where do you see that happening consistently, like once every couple years? And it's the same thing, and this guy doesn't change. Where do you see that in these other successful front offices? I haven't seen it. James says, "Are you not entertained?" Yeah, well, yeah, it's entertaining, but it's frustrating at the same freaking time. Yeah, there's always, it feels like, something to talk about with this team. It's not a downside, right? But I'd rather, be talking about winning than another piece that comes out about AJ Preller and problems not being able to connect with Bob Melvin, stuff like that. That's not that fun. Continuing to go through the chat here. I'm not going to be able to get to everyone because my laptop's about to die here, but I'm just trying to see if there's any other different viewpoints here. David says, everyone's freaking out about some famous writer's opinion on something. Get a hold of your reality, guys. Like Ken Rosenthal you're talking about, David? I mean, it's reporting. This isn't just opinion. This is reporting. It's sources from inside the Padres organization, people that have a history working with AJ Preller. As a coach, in the front office, like it's not just Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal, just like the Kevin Acee piece. It's quoted. There are sources. It's not just them just writing an opinion piece that this guy sucks, this guy sucks. No, it's sourced. It's reporting. If you haven't read it, it's a long piece, but check it out on The Athletic. Go check it out. All right. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to hit on about this article. Maybe there is. I'll probably talk about that tomorrow if I do find anything. But yeah, there was just a lot of comparisons between 2021 and 2023. These articles that were written about AJ Preller, some of the things that he does. There was one quote here from the 2021 article. Everyone knows all that will matter is how AJ wants it done. Coaches will drop a plan and Preller will insist Manny and Tatis go do something somewhere else. That was like a spring training drill example. One person with knowledge of the organization's inner workings was saying that to Rosenthal and Lynn in 2021. And then you go to 2023 here, and there's like the same kind of stuff about AJ, wanting the velo machines and stuff like that, like acting as if he's like a coach there. And it's like, let these people do their jobs. If they fail, it's on them. But now, since you include yourself, now you're even including yourself in not just the roster construction stuff, but the coaching stuff as well. You know? So there's still a lot probably to comprehend, and I'll probably read this again and again and again. But yeah, not great. Some are thinking that this relationship between Bomel and Preller is unfixable. Preller continuing to micromanage and working too hard, if that makes sense. If he wants to work really hard, go work at scouting 14-year-olds, 17-year-olds. You want as much information on those guys as possible, okay. Go for it. But let the people that you hire, let them do their jobs at the big league level if that's what you hired them to do. It's a pretty big red flag that continues to come up with this organization, with AJ Preller. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, there's my thoughts on this. The most toxic environment. That was a quote from really early on in this article. Again, on The Athletic, you can find it. Ken Rosenthal and Dennis Lin. The Padres' disastrous season reveals shaky foundation and institutional failure. I think the first one player, so kind of like the first quote in this, that one player called the season an institutional failure. Multiple members of the team spoke of a persistent atmosphere of pessimism as the Padres watched their season slip away. While numerous people downplayed or rejected rumors of a dysfunctional clubhouse, the overall environment around the team garnered less positive reviews. One former staffer said, "It's the most toxic." So one former staffer, I'm thinking meaning like from a previous season, so maybe 2021. But that's me just guessing, obviously. But yeah, it's the most toxic. Doesn't seem like it's changed a whole lot. We'll see what moves are made. But yeah, a lot of information was there in that article. So shout out to Ken Rosenthal, Dennis Lin. Great work at The Athletic, as always. Great work by Kevin Acee with the Manny Clubhouse piece from, I believe, last Friday. A lot of stuff. So yeah, that'll do it. Talking for Hours episode 472. Thank you, everyone, for the time. Pre-game thoughts, Padres Rockies coming up. I'll have a post-game reaction. Probably have a show tomorrow after Padres Rockies. But yeah, give your thoughts on this article in the comments, on social media. I'm curious to see what other Padres fans think. Thanks so much for watching or listening.